Hey there, you guys. It's Irene Lyon here, and welcome to this interview that I did with Shannon Sullivan, who is the co-founder of an online virtual summit called the FatGirlSlim Summit. So this summit was all about health and wellness and weight loss and diet and nutrition and emotional health. And I came in and provided the piece on trauma and how adverse experiences when we're young and really throughout our entire life, as well as chronic stress, how this contributes to our inability to lose weight effectively and keep it off. After a few people heard this interview, they contacted me and were immediately intrigued by how it could potentially be that the reason they've struggled their entire lives to lose weight, even though they eat well and they exercise, was because of the elements we talked about. So I won't hold it back anymore. Here is the interview I did with Shannon Sullivan and the FatGirlSlim Summit.
Hi, I'm Shannon Sullivan, and welcome to the FatGirlSlim Summit, where we get to speak with leading women's health and wellness experts to learn about loving your body, releasing the weight, stop putting your life on hold, and start living the life of your dreams. And today I'm speaking with Irene Lyon, nervous system specialist and therapeutic coach who helps everyone from the mom next door to the next big thought leaders transform their bodies, businesses, relationships, and lives through regulating their nervous systems. Irene has a master's degree in research in the fields of biomedical and health science. And she knows that when we've had early stress, whether it be chronic or acute, it affects our biochemical and neurochemical pathways we form and determines how we react to our environment. She also has uncovered ways that this early stress actually dictates how we think, act, and feel as adults. So if you think your habits could be the result of something like this, or if traumatic stress could be the reason that you can't shed that excess weight, stay tuned to find out why. So Irene, welcome to the FatGirlSlim Summit. We're so excited to have you here today.
Hey there, Shannon. Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited. And let's just jump right in with that. So,
totally, yes.
I know you have a unique history, and you even started out one way and kind of transformed into a different way. What led you to become a therapeutic coach?
Right. Well, it is a long story. It's like a 20-year story, so I'll give you the five-minute version.
Okay.
I got into, in my late teens when I was going into university, I got into exercise science. So I studied to be a fitness trainer, exercise physiology major, and even applied nutrition. So I was really into studying nutrition, specifically sports nutrition, and believe it or not, the effects of fat, like good fat, like essential fatty acids on health. And I did that for about 10 years, and I got into it because of my own injuries. I was a ski racer, really into fitness and all that. And what happened is I had all these injuries and surgeries in my mid-20s on my knees, because when you ski race, you often injure your knees. And I was doing my rehabilitation, and everything I had learned, no joke, wasn't helping me. And I had just spent 10 years in post-secondary education with really good teachers. And I was even teaching people and working with people, helping them rehabilitate injuries and muscle imbalances. And so I kind of had to go, this isn't good. My parents had just spent a lot of money on my education, a lot of time. And I went, uh-oh, this isn't good. So my physiotherapist, that's what we call them here in Canada, physical therapist, said to me, you gotta try something else, because you're technically all better. But something is making your body still really tight and stiff, and I was sore. Like, I looked great, right? Because I was rehabbing so much, but I just wasn't better. And so he said, you might want to try this other form of more alternative therapy called Feldenkrais. Now, Feldenkrais is, for those of you that don't know, it's a form of really advanced kind of brain, mind, body work. And it was developed by a man by the name of Moshe Feldenkrais. He was kind of like the godfather of neuroplasticity. And for those that don't know what neuroplasticity is, it's the capacity for the brain and body to rewire and change pathways that are either faulty or even dead. And so I'm like, I'll try anything. So I did it, to make a long story short. And within 4 weeks of doing this amazing work, my whole system was, for lack of a better word, healed. And I went, oh my goodness, like, how could this simple practice that's very intentional-based, mindfulness-based, body-based do this? So I had to study it. So I studied that for 4 years in a training, got my certification, started practicing with people. I was then living in the town of Whistler, British Columbia, which is a ski resort, and seeing a lot of people with injuries like me. But then the next piece happened, and I was getting a lot of good success with a lot of people the way this work had helped me, but there were still a subset of individuals that I couldn't help. And when I started to look at them, I realized that these people had had some pretty significant trauma. So really bad accidents, horrific childhood adversity, abuse, just really not nice stuff. And even though I was being really good at my work, I wasn't tapping into this layer. So that's where I then started to, go back to the drawing board and go, what else am I missing? And what it was I was missing the trauma response. I was missing how our bodies, when we go under stress, through traumatic events, through chronic stress, we kind of get stuck in this chaotic cycle internally in the body's physiology, and it doesn't allow us to heal properly. And in the case of, the people that this summit that you're doing, it also shuts down the metabolism. And when our metabolism is shut down, we don't burn energy in the same way. We don't have the same kind of vitality and energy to go out and do things and not only exercise, but also heal our system. So I got into this other form of work called Somatic Experiencing, which is going to be, we're going to see a lot more of this in the press as time goes on. The founder of it, Peter Levine, really realized that us humans, like you and me and everyone listening to this, us humans in the industrialized world, we do not know how to release stress. Versus animals in the wild, when they have a stressful event, they get over it. They shake it off, they run it off, or they don't survive, right? It's kind of like eat or be eaten. Whereas us, we have this tendency to hold on to our stress, to suppress our emotions, to harbor, resentment and anger and all of that, and we keep it. And when we keep it stored up, it causes a lot of havoc on our body physiology. So that's kind of how I got to this point, because I was working in fitness, and I liked it, but I could see if I really wanted to help change people from the root that I was missing I was really missing these steps, these deeper steps. So that's kind of how I got from that to being what I call myself a nervous system specialist.
Yeah. And it makes sense now that you walked us through all the steps, because initially it does sound so different, but see how you organically kind of, changed as you could see, okay, I need to step up my work. I need to change the route of my work. And I actually think that this gives a lot of hope to people who, like you said, like they've been trying all the traditional methods or all the methods that are out there in the media and thinking, why does this not work? And then it just causes more turmoil, within themselves, and it's really getting them nowhere. So if you had to
one thing, No, I sorry to cut you off there. The thing that just popped into my mind, and I see it every day. I work out at a gym, the local Y, and you always see the magazines, on the countertops. Mm-hmm. And it's that time of year, right, where people are talking about resolutions and it doesn't change on the popular press magazines, like how to cut 5 pounds of fat before the new year, or how to get rock hard abs, or, we've all seen these headlines, and it's kind of like, if that really worked, if we really think about this, if resolutions worked, if what we were doing worked, we wouldn't be coming back to the same dialogue every turn of the calendar, right? Mm-hmm. And it pained me when I was in my 20s working in fitness. I worked in the downtown core of Vancouver with a lot of high, go type A achiever people. Mm-hmm. And New Year's would come along, everybody would be all into getting fit and losing weight, and they had good intention. But the thing was that I would say, and I'm being generous here with my numbers, I would say that for every 10 people that I saw and put through a new program and assessed them in the new year, maybe only 1 to 2 of them would still be at it this time, like in the year. Like, so they would start in January, and by the time we got to November, December, they would not be on their program. And mm-hmm. It's like, well, what the heck's happening? Yeah. Because they know what they need. They know what it takes. They know how to eat well. Intelligent people, they know. Mm-hmm. Even kids know. When I used to work up in Whistler, I would go into the schools and educate children. And I got to tell this story because it's actually really poignant. I was teaching these children about food and nutrition, and it was like this whole day affair, and the parents were in their own rooms working with, school counselors. And so I had this gymnasium of, like, no joke, like 500 kids. And I was teaching them a bit about omega fatty acids, out of all things, and healthy eating. They knew all the answers when I was quizzing them. They knew it was better to eat this than this. It was important to do that versus that. And so then I went into the parents' room, and I said, tell me what you think. I just asked your kids these questions. Do you think they knew the answer? None of the parents believed that their kids knew the answers. They really? assumed that their kids were, in a way, kind of stupid, and mm-hmm. That they didn't know what healthy eating was because they challenged their parents to eat their vegetables. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with the actual food per se. It's the way that, we approach it, and the way that we kind of create this pressure around eating and around getting active. Anyway, I just thought of that because, like, at that core, we actually know what we need to do. So I kind of am looking at, well, what is it that's deeper in our system, that's past behavior and past knowing the right thing, past the cognitive level. And if we look at the research, a lot of people that struggle with weight, if we go back to body weight and excess body fat, there has been some significant trauma in their early years that's keeping them kind of in this holding pattern. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So Irene, when you first start working with clients, do they already know, like, oh, this is the moment that my life changed? This was my traumatic event. Yeah. Or does it take some work pulling that out of them?
It varies. It really varies. Some scenarios are people come in, thinking of this one person in particular, she came in because of a concussion, had fallen quite badly, and was having trouble recovering from that. As we dug into her history, she had a history of eating disorders, quite severe, depression, suicide attempt, and always struggled with her weight. And the concussion, we had to deal with that first. However, because her underlying physiology was so, the word we use is dysregulated. So her nervous system physiology, it didn't know how to work properly. She couldn't get the right cues for hunger, for fullness. There was a lot of shame and guilt because of the eating disorders and the, always having to struggle with her weight. Mm-hmm. She didn't understand, like I had to teach separate things, but it's like the reason this concussion actually is taking a lot longer to heal is because underneath of this, there's a storm in the body. But this person, highly successful, very lovely, caring, such a beautiful person, but it's like, I'm going to give another analogy. I'm going to bring it back to this question you have. But if you think of a duck on a water, okay, a duck on a lake, mm-hmm. and they're just swimming around. They look so peaceful, they're just going along. But if you were to look underwater, what are their little feet doing?
Going crazy.
They're going crazy, crazy, crazy. That's what's going on in someone that has a physiology that's had a lot of early trauma. They may appear to be really fine, but underneath there's like this madness. So there's two things. A person either knows that madness is there, and usually that's an individual that suffers with a lot of anxiety because they can feel it. But often with people that are really successful and appear great, they don't know that their underlying physiology is kind of, I always say, out of whack, like it's dysregulated. Mm-hmm. So in this person's specific case, it was like, okay, we got to work at actually calming the nervous system's physiology before we can actually work with this concussion. And what occurred is as we started working in the way I work with this regulation piece, they started to actually, their food habits started to just change spontaneously without me having to give specific food advice, because that's not what I do anymore. Because I've seen when the nervous system physiology and the stored stress can start to dissipate and release safely, the body knows what to do, right? It knows when it's hungry. It knows when it's full. It knows how to go to sleep at night. It knows when to wake up. But a lot of times people come for specific issues that are very specific, like a concussion or back pain, or digestive problems, and they think it's what they're eating. And then when we really get under it, we then start to look at their childhood. And even though they maybe didn't have severe, abuse, like rape or physical abuse, they maybe had verbal abuse, emotional neglect. They were always having to perform. This is a big one in North American society, right? Kids that are being put on the spot and pressured into doing well in school and, not showing fatigue or weakness. And that is going to play into this core nervous system physiology, which over time, and then you add in chronic stress of going to university and getting a job, and it just compounds. And then we get into adulthood and we're like, why am I struggling so hard with this thing? Yeah. So it varies. Some people are very aware of it, and others, Shannon, they come in and they would never have known or put together the pieces that the reason they're not recovering from this concussion or car accident pain or whiplash or migraine headache or insomnia is because of this early dysregulation, or that the reason they can't figure out their body weight and they're dieting, doing so, like some of my clients when they come in and see me, they eat so well, like better than I do. And yet they struggle, right? So I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, okay, cool. Cool.
And that is really interesting. We touched on a lot of things, but this, like, underlying, I'll call it like the duck pedal, right? The cream that we may or may not know. It's also very hard for other people to pick up on it. I mean, if we have everything on the outside, pretty much going on, if you have a successful career, if you have a family,
Yeah.
you know, if you can put an appearance together, like then from the outside, you're fooling or you're putting out what you want to put out.
Yeah.
And then it makes, like you were talking about compounding, then it makes it even more difficult, because if everyone on the outside thinks, oh, they have it down, then you start questioning, well, why don't I have it down? I should, you know, everyone thinks nobody understands what's wrong with me. So, and I know that, you talked a little bit about like how this sort of chronic stress affects our metabolism, and then that leads into learning how to try and soothe ourselves, how to quiet this storm that's going on that we may or may not know about. So can you tell us more about those connections?
Sure, for sure. So if I back up a tiny bit, I'm going to give a crash course in this, and you know, there's a lot to it. But when we're born, when a baby is born, they have a half functioning nervous system. So a nervous system, our autonomic nervous system, quickly is responsible for two things. One is our basic biological functions that we don't have to think about. So like right now, you and I, our heart is beating, and everybody that's listening to this, heart's beating, digestion's working, you know, our urine is being produced in our kidneys if there's liquid in there. So that all just happens. We want it to happen automatically. That's why it's called autonomic nervous system. The other part of this system is it is responsible for our survival responses. So like everybody has heard about fight, flight, you know, the adrenalized. It's like, oh, you know, people always say if a tiger was in front of you, you'd fight and flee. Actually, you wouldn't fight, you would flee, or you'd shut down because you know you couldn't fight it. So we've got that fight, flight. But when a baby is born, they actually don't have the fight-flight response on board, because a baby can't fight and it can't run, right? It can't run. A child can't run until like after, you know, age 1 when they learn how to walk. So those instincts are actually not on board for them. But what they do have is something called the freeze response, like frozen, freeze. So there's fight, flight, freeze. Now the freeze response is what we go into when we are helpless and we can't fight or flee. So that's one portion. So when you've got this newborn baby, their physiology is kind of half-baked. It's not complete. The act of bonding, attaching, you know, this is becoming hot stuff in psychology, is proper attachment, secure attachment, nurturing, giving love. That is going to build up the nervous system, especially the portion of the nervous system that gives us humanity, which is social engagement and being able to connect with others. But that isn't on board when a baby is born. We have to teach it. And this is where it gets thrown off. If we have got, in any way, an upbringing that is stressful, and there's a myriad of reasons for this. It can be that the parents are stressed, that the parents have trauma from their past that's still there. If the environment is not safe, you know, right now we have massive stuff going on in the world with refugees. You know, those little people are not safe. But you don't have to be in a war-torn country to not be safe. It can be in an affluent, suburban, white household where parents are disengaged and not present. A little one is going to feel that, and they will sense someone's not there for me right now, or those people that are there are fighting, or those people that are there don't know how to connect with me. That little person is going to feel that, and what they do is they default to the freeze response. They kind of shut down, and they don't learn how to soothe themselves because the parent, the caregivers, they don't have those soothing mechanisms in their system, okay? So what happens is, from the start, the physiology of that little tiny person is not being built in the way that it can be. And it goes into this more shut down the real term, I'll give you the sciencey term for those that might like the science. They go into what's called a dorsal state of the parasympathetic system, where there's low metabolism. The system kind of goes into, in a way, a slight version of shock. We go into this if we have like a massive accident and we need to preserve our body and not bleed to death. But there's subtle versions of that when we sense that there isn't anybody there for us. And so we kind of have to protect ourselves. But a baby does this unconsciously, right? It's not thinking, okay, it's not safe here. I think I better go into low metabolism. It just does it reflexively because it's a survival response. So I'm going to just put a little aside to this. People that are listening to this, I really want to, make sure I'm ethically clean here. This can be like a huge triggering thing to learn. So I don't tell this to blame parents. It's not that it's their fault. In our culture, Shannon, we just aren't aware of this. Okay. And a lot of the research is coming out that it's like some of our stressors are passed on through the generations. We get this in utero if mom was stressed out. So, I want to really stress that the good news is that we might have had this early upbringing where there was a lot of stress, maybe a neglect, poor attachment. And yes, our little systems might have been put off and put us into sort of a low metabolic state that we're still struggling with. But the good thing is that we can actually shift it and change it. But as a whole, right now, the evidence, the research, and this is being researched, is really mounting up to the fact that if we had early adversity when we were young, kind of under the age of 3, and our system had to go into this shutdown state because we couldn't run away from home because we literally couldn't run. When we become older, like meaning teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, that will show up in our older years in adult health or adult disease. And some of the main byproducts of this early adversity is obesity, is being overweight, not being able to be physically active because the system is literally depressed. It has low life force, low life energy, low vitality. And it's not because the person is lazy. I want to really stress that. It's because the stress response systems have been taxed so much that we actually can't even get our adrenaline on board to get us up and go out for that walk or that run or engage with friends. It's really, it's in this sort of deep neurochemical, neuropathway level, and how it was taught to us in a way unconsciously from the start. So I hope this is making sense to you right now, Shannon, as you're listening.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information, but I really think that, I was so happy to do this interview with you, Irene, because you touch on a lot of the things that aren't really talked about. And you said it before, you go to the gym, you see these magazine articles, lose 5 pounds fast, look this way, do this thing. And then it's like, give it a break for a month, then the magazine will write about something else. And then they just package it 2 months later. And it's like, that sort of stuff, you can't hear that all the time without eventually being like, how come this isn't working?
And it does, and sometimes it does work. Sometimes, people go on these crash diets. I mean, actors and actresses and models do it all the time to get ready for a role. And it works, but it's very surface level. But the interesting thing is people, I'm thinking of a piece of research that I can't quote right now, but people will say improve, say their weight or their whatever, exercise, and they'll make a change. But if it's just from a behavioral point of view and they haven't addressed, that those duck feet that are going, that underlying nervous system physiology, people will then, like a year later, they will have another addiction. They will be into, maybe they start smoking, or they start shopping, or they start getting obsessed with a hobby that's actually unhealthy. And you actually see this for example, in people who are alcoholics, they'll go to AA, 12-step program, and they'll stop drinking. But a lot of those people end up smoking, or they become caffeine addicts, or they become sugar addicts, or they become addicted to exercise. And it's essentially the system is looking for soothing, Shannon, because in those early years as a baby, as a child, even as an adolescent, they never learned how to self-soothe. This is key, actually. When there wasn't an opportunity to learn self-regulation and self-soothing from our immediate caregivers and from our environment, we are going to find, we're so clever as human beings, we're going to find something to soothe us. And that will be some form of addiction. This is where addiction comes in, right? Whether it's food or exercise or sex or love even, there's people that are in love addict groups, believe it or not. And all that's happening there, I shouldn't say all, it's a big thing, is that those people, those nervous systems inside of those people, they're craving soothing. They're looking for self-regulation, right? And so if we don't deal with that core piece, we can come out losing weight and getting fitter. But there's going to be something else down the road that's going to pop up. And so I'm kind of an advocate for how can we heal at like a cellular nervous system, biological level, so that we don't end up getting another disease when we're in our 50s. And I had a acquaintance the other day tell me that her mom was just diagnosed with some pretty severe cancer. And her mom doesn't get it because she eats well, she exercises, she sleeps, she has all these things, but the mom represses her anger. She doesn't know how to express emotion. And the research time and time again is coming out with this. If we suppress our emotions and our anger, especially anger, it's going to brew inside of us and cause illness. So it's kind of like this multi-prong approach. We got to look at everything, but we really need to look at the nervous system. And I can tell you right now, for those listening, if you work at this level, the food piece and the metabolic piece, it just takes care of itself because the body wants to find regulation. And when we give it the pieces that it needs, it's like it drinks it up, like so fast.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I love that you can say it in such a way where it's not just, oh, surface, look at this, but it's really about thinking you can't just avoid this. If you get a handle on whatever vice you have going right now without really paying attention to the true source, then it's just going to show up somewhere else.
It will.
I love what you said because it's true. A crash diet, a fad diet, it can work and it does work, but we're not someone, and everyone who's on this summit, you're not looking for what's going to get you through the month or the holidays or the 2 months.
Yeah.
It's about what's going to get you through the next 10 years, 20
your lifetime. And actually I'm glad you just said that. You just sparked up a thing in my brain is, everyone's going on these 12-month programs or 12-week programs or this 21-day cleanse. Here's the problem with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing a clean-out cleanse or anything like that. But it tricks our brain into thinking, okay, if I can be good for this 12 weeks, at the end of that 12 weeks, I can then be bad or I can then go back. And this is why we screw up, is that we're teaching people that health has a finite expiry date or whatever. Like, that once we hit this date, then it's done. It's like saying to a mother, after 9 months is done, you don't have to suffer anymore through pregnancy. It's like, well, no, or enjoy it. It's like that. It's like the moment that starts, it's like then it really starts. As soon as that baby is out of you, then the real work comes. Like 9 months is nothing. So it's like it's the same with our health. It's like if we if we go into the new year coming up thinking, I'm going to do this program, this brand new shiny program that's going to get me blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah months, you're setting yourself up to fail. And I'm being really honest here because I've seen it and it doesn't work when we go into these programs. You know, the thing I hate the most is when people say you can change a habit and now it's 90 days. It used to be 21 days and it was 30 days. It's like, no, habits continually recycle and we need to keep reassessing them. And it's not something that just changes in 90 days, right? Because you put somebody into a stressful situation and then 10 years later, they go back to the habit that they had when they were 18, you know, as an example. But I actually, just as I was saying that, the study I was thinking about earlier, it was with people that were having gastric bypass. This is what happens when people have severe obesity. They have gastric bypass so that their stomachs are smaller and they don't eat as much. Those people will lose weight, but what they have found is that those people will also end up becoming alcoholics, many of them 6 months down the road, or they'll start smoking. That was the research I read. So they're actually losing weight and they're eating less, but because those little feet of theirs, those duck feet, the nervous system is so dysregulated, they're still looking for something to soothe themselves because they can't soothe themselves with the food anymore, right?
It's really interesting.
It is. And if I tie it back to the science, one of the reasons why a lot of our soothing practices have to do with our mouths, right? We eat, we drink, we smoke. It's because the process of moving our mouth and swallowing, that actually directly goes to the calming centers of the nervous system, right? That's why babies, when they are hungry or when they're not well, you put a soother into their mouth.
Yeah, that's for true.
And they start to suckle, and or a boob or a bottle, or you put your finger in there and they start to, right?
Yeah.
That stimulates a part of the parasympathetic system that helps downregulate the heart rate. And so if we didn't get that in a good way when we were little, we're going to look for these things of putting things into our mouths. I'm really simplifying here, but it's true, to help soothe the system.
Yeah. That's getting, I mean,
it's deep.
It's all connected. Yeah, no, it is. But like we said before, it's stuff that rarely gets talked about. And I'm just so happy that this message is getting out, even just on this platform, because the frustration that's caused by trying to make change or trying to follow the advice that you think works for so many other people, that frustration is so real and it's debilitating.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've really messed up things. I mean, I am, believe it or not, an optimist, but I'm also a realist. And it's like, we have done this experiment in, you know, our North American culture with all this stuff, and the experiment isn't working. We need to shift gears and literally turn the bus around and go a different direction. And it's coming out in, you know, I'm very much about global healing. It's coming out in the violence that we're seeing, especially in America. And it can be really traced back to how babies were cared for in young years, how the medical system doesn't provide the things it needs, you know, it can be traced back to the fact that moms aren't given paid maternity leave, you know, so they're stressed out when they're little, when the kids are little, because they have to work and two parents have to work. And so there's that kind of underlying unsafety that's going on from a global level in many ways. And so when I teach people about their nervous system, I like to bring it into a broader scope so that people don't feel there's something wrong with me, because this is what comes out. Like, why can't I figure this out? You know, what's wrong with me? And then there's incredible shame attached to it and guilt. And, you know, all I can say is this is not an individual piece. Like, this is a global issue that we're dealing with. And I do believe, because I've seen it, that when we can really have these conversations and look at these deeper roots, it soothes in many ways the person, because they go, okay, I'm not insane, I'm not crazy. This is really a real thing, and I've just been given the wrong information.
What a difference it would be to feel that. It's not.
Oh, yeah.
It's not on me to know the right way. It's just about recognizing that you're different. You have been misinformed.
Yeah, totally. And, I'm one of many. I've discovered this, but I've discovered this. I've got to give credit to my teachers, the people that have studied this stuff, because I'm not the one that was in the research office studying these connections. There's amazing research being done and doctors that are advocating for this finally. But they're also getting hit with a lot of them are being scapegoated, and it's like, oh, this is just genetic. It's because people are lazy. It's just because we've got to get people, it's like, no, there's a much deeper piece here. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it as time goes on, because this is kind of the missing link, I believe, to get things back on track. It's a deep link. But it's a missing link.
It's deep, but it's necessary.
It's very necessary. Yeah. I mean, I'll one resource that's great. He's one of my heroes. He's actually a Vancouver-based physician. His name is Gabor Mate, and he has really looked at addiction and the body and healing from a real deep level. And he actually has said, like, our culture is toxic. Like, we've created a toxic culture where not only are our bodies internally toxic because of all the stress chemicals that we harbor and all the emotions that we harbor, but our culture doesn't know how to connect anymore. We don't know how to empathize. Some of us do, like you and I, and I'm sure all the people listening to here are deeply empathetic and people that want to learn, which is awesome. And yet there's a lot of people that don't want to learn and aren't interested in this. And so it's like, how can we tip the scale a little bit? Right.
Yeah. Well, Irene, this is great. And I wanted to thank you so much for being here and just sharing your message and all of your insights. And like you said, for the people on this summit who are listening, who do want to learn more, who do want to take that next step, where can they find out more about you?
Definitely. So my name is my website. It's pretty simple. Irene Lyon, IRENE, Lyon, LYON.com. So, you can check me out there. I've got lots of free resources. I do teach people how to regulate their nervous system, either one-on-one or I've finally got some group programs going that are actually rocking people's world. It's really bringing them to this deeper level of healing, which is awesome. And then we've got a free gift, right? So
yes,
if you go to IreneLyon.com /4, so the number 4, and then SLIM, SLIM. I'm going to connect to your summit. So 4 SLIM. You'll come to a little pop-up page that has a cheat sheet and an audio exercise. And it's called 4 Surprisingly Simple Steps to Calm Overwhelm and Out of Control Emotions. Now, I've got to title things because you've got to put a title. If you're not someone that has overwhelm or out of control emotions, this will still be good because there's an audio exercise. It's about 20 minutes long. It is a beginning into learning how to be in your biology from a very kind of body-based sensorial point of view. So it's kind of like a meditation, but it's not meditation. It's really getting into your body, learning how to feel it from a very different perspective. So far, people have really, really loved it. So if you go to that link, you'll get that cheat sheet and then the audio that goes with it.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like, that just sounds like a life-changing gift and way to introduce yourself into Irene's work and follow up with her. We do have
Yeah.
that free gift link that was in the email you all received. It was right next to the link for this interview. So again, Irene, thank you. We're so happy. I know that this is one of the most powerful interviews that's on this summit, for sure.
Awesome. You are so welcome, Shannon. I'm glad our paths crossed, however they were crossed, I'm not sure, but I am happy to spend my time talking with you and your folks on this topic, because it's so dear to my heart. And I do know that if we can get under this, into this level of healing, that, it's going to change things. It's deep stuff too, it's like, it's pieces that we really ignore and avoid because it's not always fun. I'm going to put that in there, not to scare people away, but it's like, this is feeling things that we've maybe been putting away for a while. But all I can say is trust me, when it's done safely and in a way that's guided well, which is what I'm all about, it can happen. And when it happens, the amount of energy that gets freed up in your body is incredible. So I just want to put that out there for everyone listening.
Yeah. Well, everyone, stay tuned tomorrow. Same place, you'll get the email delivered directly to your inbox with all the information and links to tomorrow's speaker. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then.
Okay, so how was that to hear all that information and sort of see this idea of weight loss and fat loss from a very probably different perspective? Many people don't see that connection between traumatic experience and being overweight, obesity, trouble losing weight, low metabolism. It's becoming more known, not more well known, but more known. I think we're going to hear about this way more as time goes on. If you are listening to this and you're not on my email list, if you're not at my site, if you're listening to this somewhere else because someone sent this to you, definitely head over to my site, irenelyon.com, and check out my shop page if this isn't how you found this. And check out some of my freebies. I've got some guides there on de-stressing, on the nervous system, on trauma, on resistance, on how to break out of stuckness. And I've also got some paid programs there, self-study programs that can get you started on your journey of nervous system healing and health. So again, if you go to irenelyon.com, and then when you get there, it's /shop, you can go directly to that link. It'll get you to all my information so you can really start to understand and learn and cultivate a body and nervous system and brain that works for you rather than against you. Take very good care, and thank you again for being here today and learning with me.